And so nane did not quite work out how a vast majority of Kenyans expected it to. After the Gen Zs got all of us very worked up, pumped up, we were expecting the end of this major war to have been nane, the 8th of August 2024. But of course it did not happen. And there are so many Kenyans who are crestfallen. So many Kenyans who have given up. So many who are just sad. Now, as you take in my show today, I have a small piece of advice. Please, try very hard to ignore your emotions and instead put on your thinking caps. And I assure you at the end of it all today, things will be much more clearer to all of us. And so you'll be in a position not only to understand what happened during nane, but also to understand that Kenyans, long-suffering Kenyans, are still on course to liberate their country. Indeed, they are still at a very advantageous position. And yes, it is true, it remains to be true that Ruto is going. Definitely. So let's get down to it. Actually, we have a lot to unpack. And we will not do what most do. And that is to change history. And even to change current events to fit our narrative. We're not going to do that. We're going to say it as it is. State all the facts. Even those that do not support the position of a vast majority of Kenyans. And so let us start with the impact of the broad-based government, Ruto's new broad-based government. Because the truth is, it has had a political impact. I spent quite a bit of time focusing on Nyanza because, like most of you, I was puzzled why Kondele, for instance, was so quiet on nane. And so I made the effort, and I had a few of my people on the ground speaking to wananchi in my effort to understand. You will remember that when the Gen Z protest started, Homa Bay and indeed Migori were hotspots. Both of them were quiet. You could hear a pin drop during nane. Why? It definitely has something to do with Ruto's brand new, actually it's not brand new, broad-based government that included 4 ODM kingpins. ODM Raila Odinga's party. It would appear that a significant percentage of the population in Nyanza believe, despite denials from ODM, believe that there has been a kind of understanding, a kind of handshake between Raila and Ruto. And therefore they have decided watulize boli. Now please don't misunderstand me. I have chosen my words very carefully. I have said a significant portion of the population in Nyanza seem to have made this decision. And it is also true that a significant portion of the population in this area are still with the Gen Z revolution, have not changed their minds. And we will need a poll, I'm afraid, to tell us what kind of percentages we are talking about. But that seems to be the position. Vitu kwa ground ziko hivyo. Okay? Now, on to the bombshell. And I'm very sure a vast majority of us are not aware of this. There was a lot of hard work by UDA people, Ruto people, an enormous amount of work that gave us the results that we saw yesterday. And I also found evidence of this very hard work in Nyanza and Nyanza in general, including areas like Kisii. A lot of hard work, a lot of money was poured, and it produced very good results for Ruto's regime. Yeah, I put good results in quotes because this is all about perception, the way people look at things. Okay, but unfortunately, that African mango is still rotten at the core, very rotten smelling. Okay, but the perception the Ruto regime was looking for, it got. Yeah, this mango looks okay, very shiny and juicy on the outside. But then I'm sure, as we all know, you cannot hide something rotten for very long. If nothing else gets you, the rotten smell will reach your nose at some point. Bottom line, you have not solved the problem. Yeah, and actually your focus should be, if you want to survive in power, your focus should be on solving the problem, hitting the problem at the core, digging into that rotten part in the mango, yeah, right up to the seed, and removing all the rot. Then maybe, just maybe, you'll be able to save the rest of the mango. That is really the situation. And if you want evidence that some people really worked overtime, they worked very hard to achieve what we saw yesterday, then you also need to realize that they managed to infiltrate some of the mainstream media. Because when you hear somebody in Nyanza saying that Ruto should now be given time to produce results, then immediately you should know. Because that statement, give Ruto time, we all know where it's coming from. We all know who's pushing it. When you hear a remark like that from somebody being interviewed by a TV station, then you know somebody has been working very hard. And you see, they have managed to fool very many people. So much so that I am convinced that too many Kenyans believe that the revolution, the Gen Z-led revolution, has fizzled out. Now, there are many reasons why this cannot be true. But I will give you just one. In 2017, when things got so hot against the rigged-in President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, many people believed that this was it, and that Kenya would not go back to peace until the rightful winner of the 2017 presidential elections was installed. And there are many Kenyans who still felt this, even after the handshake between Raila and Uhuru. Because remember, the government still continued harassing Miguna, yeah, the controversial lawyer based in Canada. Yeah, they still continued harassing him even after the handshake. But political temperatures cooled down. Things did not happen the way most of us expected them to unravel. Why? Because at that time, Kenyans had jobs to go back to. Kenyans had businesses to go back to. Life was okay. We were complaining, but actually, there was money in the economy. However, this time round, trust me, Kenyans have nothing to go back to other than empty rhetoric, empty promises. Tumepanga, tumetenga, kuanzia next week, kuanzia next month, etc., etc. And so, round hii, mambo ni tofauti. Despite the reaction, the initial reactions we have received from Nyanza province, the old Nyanza province. Although there are some things which are still the same, or rather unfolding exactly the same as they unfolded in 2017. For instance, billionaire Safina party leader Jimmy Wanjigi, who is a very close ally of Raila Odinga, is still being harassed. even after the handshake, even after the broad-based government. You will remember that even after the handshake of 2017, lawyer Miguna, people like Babu Owino were still seeing fire from the government that Raila had just gone into a handshake with. Something else that happened during nane, and I believe most people are already aware of this. These massive preparations I have been talking about since the beginning of my show today also extended into ensuring that there would be no protests or demonstrations anywhere within the CBD, contrary to our constitution. What the police simply did was to lock down Nairobi CBD, block all roads leading to the city center. And so if you are under 30 years old, entering Nairobi CBD yesterday was a massive headache, a massive problem. Public service vehicles were stopped and all the commuters were ordered to alight and walk the rest of the distance. Yeah, sometimes a 2-hour walk. Private vehicles were thoroughly searched, and thoroughly screened before being allowed to proceed. And of course, those carrying older Kenyans had a much easier time of getting through. But still, some protesters got through. And what we witnessed were running battles with the police for a better part of the day. Bottom line, we still had protests during nane. There was no occupying State House. There was no occupying JKIA, the airport. But Nairobi CBD was occupied. Well, almost occupied. Kind of occupied. Okay? And super fascinating, as all this was unfolding, Ruto's new cabinet was being sworn in. ODM's John Mbandi, the former chairman of the party, walking up, looking very pleased with himself, even as his official car outside, the V8, was having a Kenyan flag installed, signifying that he's a cabinet secretary in William Samoei Ruto's cabinet. Many of us found that one more than a little difficult to take in. What? And other ODM bigwigs followed. Ali Hassan Joho, former Mombasa governor, Wycliffe Oparanya, former Kakamega governor, Opiyo Ondai, And you want to convince me that the Gen Z-led revolution has fizzled out? How? When it is being provoked, when the political class is making every effort to ensure that the fire does not die down, including pouring petrol into the fire to make sure it burns even better and hotter. How can you tell me this thing is fizzling out? Hey, no way. And all this drama right inside State House, very well guarded. Even roads leading anywhere near State House yesterday had roadblocks. People were being screened. All this drama that was going down in State House had been preceded by some other drama in Parliament that Kenyans were not happy about. And that was the vetting of the cabinet members, which went very smoothly. Both ODM legislators and UDA legislators rubber-stamped Ruto's new cabinet. No problem. It passed without anybody breaking into a sweat. In fact, it caught most Kenyans by surprise because it was fast-tracked. Na watu tu walishtuka, watu wamepitishwa. When did that happen? But the truth is that it happened. The process was fast-tracked there was cooperation between the so-called opposition and the government side. Indeed, I have to admit that for any casual observer, if you put all these things together, culminating in a very disappointing nane protest that almost didn't happen, some people believe did not happen, then one would quickly be convinced that Ruto is surviving, that things will go back to normal, that everything is okay. That is the perception. And this is one of those times when perception and the truth are very far apart. But now, why don't we focus on the truth, the reality on the ground? Now, things in Bangladesh happened very fast. However, in Kenya, and this is an expression I used in a video, I believe over a month ago, in Kenya, it is going to be slow burn. Itachomeka pole pole, lakini itachomeka. What exactly do I mean? And by the way, in my opinion, this is irrefutable proof that the Ancient of Days has a direct hand in what is unfolding in Kenya. And one of the things that means is that we're not going to have stars. People who can come out when Kenyans are finally liberated to say that they were solely responsible for the good results. That will never happen. At the end, many people will have their own small things to do, which when put together will get the results that the long-suffering people of Kenya are looking for. Not realizing that what the Ancient of Days actually wants is a total draining of the swamp. Total. And strategically speaking, a quick Bangladesh will not give us those results. That is the truth. And so going forward, my friends, the most important skill for you to be able to analyze accurately what is going down in Kenyan politics will be the skill of dividing perception and reality, being able to make the distinction very clearly, and then it will be very easy to read Kenyan politics and what is going down. Now, one of the reasons why I'm convinced that a higher power is involved is the way this whole saga is unfolding. Because what is happening to the Ruto administration is that they are limping from one crisis to another. Because even as they try to deal with the Gen Z problem, protests, etc., there are other much more serious problems breathing down their necks. Number one, the economy, financing, money. That is a crisis waiting to explode. And if we're to believe embattled Jimmy Wanjigi, it will happen through something called a debt default, which may force the government to go into people's bank accounts, M-Pesa accounts, etc. Another problem breathing down their necks is the loss of confidence from their foreign partners, many of whom are positioning themselves to survive the aftermath of the Ruto administration by pretending they are very concerned about what happens to ordinary Kenyan citizens. The best example of that is the visit by high-ranking officials from Washington warning the Ruto administration that the police must take personal responsibility when they shoot unarmed protesters. And super fascinating, that order from Washington during nane was obeyed 100%, because one of the things that was missing were those guys who get involved in these manenos, and especially the Subaru boys, who were very busy yesterday not dealing with unarmed protesters as they usually do, but dealing with a man called Jimmy Wanjigi. And there is another problem looming. Ruto's new cabinet was sworn in. Now the next step is that at some point they are going to meet the public. And I'm just wondering what the reaction of the public will be. Perhaps, just perhaps, it may be what a former cabinet secretary called Ababu Namwamba experienced at the carnival, when he turned up for a function and the people could not let him speak. Instead they shouted back, Ruto must go. And so my suggestion is, for those of us who are still convinced that the Gen Z-led revolution is fizzling out, my strong advice is that we carefully observe how these new cabinet secretaries are going to be received, are going to be handled by ordinary Kenyans right across the board. Now this is truly the season of exposure, because as Kenyans marked August the 1st, remembering the botched coup of 1982, a lot of information has suddenly started to emerge. And this information has even spread out to other issues of great concern to Kenyans, to other mysteries that are yet to be solved, like the Saitoti, Professor George Saitoti, helicopter accident. I'm telling you, this exposure of sensitive, previously unknown information is so much that it is difficult for most Kenyans to take in and digest. But of course most of it is not news to regulars, those who have been with the Kumekucha brand for a number of years, because they have had this information for a long time. And in case you're in the group of those who don't know what I'm talking about, you now have the perfect chance of getting all this information, plus all my previous special reports, in case you missed all of them or some of them, in an amazing package that will cost you only 19.99 Kenya shillings, 1,999, or $15. You can see details on your screens right now on how you can get this very valuable package in your email, and ultimately in your library of sensitive information that not many people have. From yours truly, stuff about the Saitoti chopper accident that will just blow your mind. Crazy information about the aborted coup of 1982, coupled with very recent information in my recent special reports that is now more relevant than ever, like the one about Ruto's secrets that are still not in the public domain, and also on the General Ogola chopper tragedy. A truly amazing package for only 19.99. And of course, because of the sensitivity of a lot of this material, this offer is available only for a very short time, maximum 48 hours. So you'll need to move fast to avoid being left out. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.